I'm Jeff Yockey with Champaign County Bikes, and I'm here with Steve Clark. And Steve is with the League of American Bicyclists, and I make up titles for you all the time. So
the official title is Bicycle Friendly Community Specialist.
yeah,
The only person in the country with that job title.
yeah,
Sure.
good. And tell us about your work in Boulder and Minneapolis with bikes before you did this.
Oh, sure. So I was Boulder, Colorado's first bicycle program manager. That was back in the 80s. And
How long was your hair back then?
I think I had a beard, full beard, and yeah, longer hair than I have now.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Yeah, it was a fun job. It was a comprehensive program back then. We did education. We had a strong engineering component, and lots of encouragement. We really got the community behind bicycling in a big way. So they gave me my own budget to work with.
Oh,
I hired a bunch of interns, and it was fun.
And then you went to Minneapolis after
And
that?
then I worked as an independent consultant for quite a few years, and then my most recent job before taking the job with League of American Bicyclists was working as the program manager for a pilot program in Minneapolis called the Non-Motorized Transportation Pilot Program, and we had $25 million to invest in improving conditions for walking and bicycling for transportation purposes. This was through Congress, and they wanted to see if you invest in good facilities and good programs, can you actually get people to change their travel behavior and actually start using their physical power to get from point A to point B.
Well, you must have done well, because every so often you'll hear a sentence that goes something like, well, in Copenhagen or in Holland or Minneapolis,
Yeah, we had, I think we did, one thing about the program which was really key was that we had to show that what we were doing, what we were investing these funds in, truly were making a difference. So we had really good documentation. So now we know what works and what doesn't work, and I'm able to use some of that when I go to other cities now to help them become more bicycle friendly.
Yeah, so every year you visit about 75 cities, just like Champaign and Urbana.
Yes.
Meeting with planners, engineers, local officials?
Policymakers, staff, both planners, engineers, sometimes with Parks and Rec, economic development people, Chamber of Commerce leaders, bike club representatives, the advocates, retailers, and then we always want to get policymakers involved as well. So a good mix of community leaders that can make things happen in a community.
Well, I enjoy reading those books that are travel logs, where people have traveled, experienced things, and wrote about it. So that's why I'm eager to interview you. And I want to hear about some of the places you've gone, and like you've seen a lot. But what are some things that have amazed you? What have you seen some communities do that are really creative and really making a big difference?
It's really wonderful to see all the new things happening and the passion that's out there. It seems like wherever I go, I learn something that some community is doing that nobody else has thought of, and then I get to share those great ideas with others. So, for instance, Athens, Ohio, they had some space in their public library, and they thought, hey, we could actually have people check out bikes the way they check out books, and they have recumbent, tricycle, road bike, a fat tire bike, mountain bike, hybrid bike. So they have these different bikes that people can check out, just like checking out a book, use them for a week or two, and then return them. And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one example.
Sure.
Some of the things that have impressed me the most are those places that have truly been able to put down on paper, through often lots of good public engagement, a real vision for what they want to see their community becoming, and where they're. So, for instance, Boulder, Colorado, they know that they can't build their way out of congestion. You know, you can keep building more lanes out there, but it's not going to actually solve the problem, right? So they figured long ago that the real solution is to decrease the number of people actually driving places. And Copenhagen and places in the Netherlands have figured this out long ago as well. So Boulder has in their comp plan a policy that they're going to decrease the vehicle miles traveled to below 1994 levels, which is pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this isn't per capita. This is just across the board. As Boulder's growing, way more people living there now than in 1994, and yet they have been successful in bringing the VMTs down to 1994 levels, and now they're trying to get them 20% below that. So, so once you have those kinds of goals, San Luis Obispo, their goal is to have 20% bicycle ridership by 2020. Once you establish those solid goals, then you can start doing things that really get you in that position.
So where do those goals and vision reside? Who's the keeper of that? Is it the bike advocacy group?
Usually that's where it starts.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so it may be bicycle advocates. It may also be, in the case of Boulder, you know, people who are really strong into the whole sustainability, climate change movement. Folks that really understand the link between our lifestyle, how we get around, and some of these big issues like pollution and climate change and even health. I mean, for some cities, the big motivation is public health. And they've found that by just making their streets better for walking and bicycling, people are able to get out and walk and bicycle more, and it's improving their health.
So when you talked about their ridership goals of 20%, is that commuting or trips, or what is that a measure of?
Yeah, so they're looking, so San Luis Obispo is looking at the commute trip. 20% of all the trips to work will be done by bicycle, but they're doing their own surveys to even, they know that's actually the hardest trip typically to get people to change from car to bike, because often it's the longest trip that people make. So for, I think for all trips, the mode share that they're looking at is higher than that.
Wow.
But the work trip happens to be the easiest one for us to kind of compare cities to one another, because the U.S. government does what's called the American Community Survey, and that's one of the questions they ask, and 1 out of 38 households receive that questionnaire.
Yeah, so Urbana is listed as 6.2%, I think.
6.4%.
6.4%, okay.
Whereas the state of Illinois, the average for the state of Illinois is 0.62. So you're more than 10 times the state average.
All right. Well, we've got a retreat planned in January, and one of the questions I want to look at is to look at that number and say, what should our goal be in 5 years and in 10 years? How high should we reach? What do you think we should go for?
You have so many things going for you here in Urbana. You've got the right size city, and it's relatively compact still, good for you. You haven't really done the sprawl thing like a lot of cities unfortunately have done. You have the great demographics with the student population. You've got people who live here. Seem like there's a long history of being very active and into the outdoors and walking and bicycling and hiking and running. Those are all values that it seems like a lot of your community members share. So I think realistically you could be in the top 10 in the nation for ridership. And I think 10, 12, 15% is not, even in the next 5 years, you could easily double the bicycling that's happening today. What really has impressed me about Urbana is that you don't have tremendous infrastructure. Typically, a city with the infrastructure that you have, when I say infrastructure, you know, I'm talking about bikeways and both on street and off street.
Uh-huh.
A lot of cities are trying to do a lot more to get more people bicycling. And if you had some of the infrastructure, like a place like City of Boulder, or even what Chicago's been doing, or Evanston here in Illinois, I think you would see that number doubling. I mean, people are making bicycling work for them, mostly because it's still it's still a pretty convenient way of getting around.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people I've talked to, they don't feel particularly safe on the streets here, and the crossings are difficult in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
We saw today that trying to cross Lincoln was difficult. So I think it doesn't even take a lot of money. Sometimes it's like, how do you use paint in a way that it's more creative and maybe narrow some of the travel lanes, get wider bike lanes, get maybe some green paint here and there, put in some, medians where you can help people cross the street. These aren't high-ticket items.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about Champaign in just a minute,
Yes.
but I want to stay on Urbana. So, return on investment.
Yes.
What are a couple things you would encourage me as a leader of the advocacy organization to really push on, to see those numbers grow? And so, is it on the encouragement side? Is it on education? Should we be having Saturday classes for bike commuting or adult bicycling, those kind of things? Is it all on the engineering end? So,
yeah, well,
give me a couple of hints.
It's a good question, and of course we are all about a comprehensive approach. So we talk about the 6 E's: engineering, education, enforcement, encouragement, evaluation, planning, and equity, making sure those investments are truly reaching everybody that needs to have these kinds of services and infrastructure. But I think your weak point probably, where you could have the greatest gains in terms of increasing ridership, is in the engineering aspect. I think if you were able to get more bikeways, more facilities, more on-street and off, I mean, you don't have, really any off-street, which is rare.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that you need, I mean, you're doing it. There's plenty of pavement out there. It's really a matter of how do you take that pavement that's out there and make it easier for people to use that for bicycling. Right now, it still seems like there's more focus on how to move cars than perhaps we would like to see, for a city that is as progressive as Urbana and with the community values that exist here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I can get to campus in about 8 minutes from my house to some meeting there. So I live fairly close, but some of my friends live in southwest Champaign, and they've got, their commute's longer, they got more to deal with. We just started a conversation yesterday about electric bikes.
Yes.
And we don't know very much about electric bikes here. We don't see them very often. They're not a part of our scene, but I hear they're coming. What have you seen? What do you think? What do you want to tell us about the future that may be coming this way?
Get ready for it, because it's going to happen, I think, no matter what we do. But I think the cities that actually will that start embracing the electric assist bikes are going to see. I mean, that's where we can really start talking about 25% ridership, 30% ridership, because it opens up bicycling to so many more people. You don't have real challenging topography, but you do have some places that, some hills, but people who have any health issues or people who haven't been on a bicycle for many years and they really aren't in the condition that you are to bike, 10, 15, 20 miles without hardly, feeling it the next day. I mean, the e-bike is their sort of entry into this. And once people discover, wow, I can actually do this easily and go for 60 miles, basically E-bikes, you know, you can.
Yeah, it gives you a range of 50, 60 miles.
Yeah, and you know, you can pedal a little bit, but you don't really have to pedal if you don't want to. I mean, it really is going to transform our cities. And I think what we need to do as urban planners is to say, what do we want? How do we want people to get around, and how can we make it? You know, how do we make our streets work for that? And right now, I mean, these narrow bike lanes, you know, maybe we have to think about creating, you know, turning over our entire right lanes for slower moving vehicles, whether it's an e-bike or a bicycle, or people in golf carts, I don't know. But I mean, it's like, let's rethink how we do transportation, because the technology is there now to truly have safe, efficient, environmentally benign, healthy forms of transportation that's accessible to everybody, and we just have to let it happen.
All right. Well, a couple last questions. You get on an elevator and you say hello, and you find out that the person's the mayor of the city, and you've got 4 floors. What's your elevator pitch to the mayor of a city about embracing bicycles as a meaningful part of the future of that city?
Well, we know that people now are equating bicycle-friendly communities with all the wonderful quality of life attributes that people are looking for in terms of where to live, where to work, where to play. So the bike-friendly communities are the healthiest communities. They're the ones that are most economically vital. They're the ones where employers are trying to relocate to. It's where people want to go on vacation, and it's where people want to live and raise a family. So it truly is, whether you're doing this for bicycling or you're trying, it's not so much what you can do for bicyclists, it's what bicycling can do for your community. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that it's happening everywhere. So.
Great. Well, I hope when you go other places, you're going to be telling them about Champaign-Urbana. What we're doing
Champaign-Urbana, yes. Well, and that's almost one word, right?
And we think about it. We're one community.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, and really, it's like I'm riding from Champaign to Urbana. I don't know where the one city stops and the other one starts, and you know, the corridor is pretty much the same.
Yep.
You know, wherever you're riding. So it is important that this is thought of in a sort of a broader way. And Champaign's doing some good things too, mm-hmm. So it's, yeah, and in fact, I think one of the things that I am most impressed about with the people here is the bike culture. You know, the first night I was here, I was invited on an ice cream ride or a moonlight ride, and people, you know, going to the dairy barn, and the numbers that are involved with that is just amazing. And these kinds of things is really what it's all about. It's a social, you know, we're social creatures, and there's nothing better than a bicycle to bring people together and just be part of the city life, and also to enjoy nature. Yeah. I mean, it does it all. So.
Well, very good. Well, hey, thanks for the time, Steve.
Thank you.